welcome to another Gadsby's England podcast, videocast, as we build up to Euro 2020 or Euro 2021, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing this from a kind of an interesting location. Any of you who have been watching the terrific Apple TV show Ted Lasso might recognise this location behind me. This is the pub where all the fans of the fictional Richmond AFC, or AFC Richmond I should say, gather to call Ted Lasso the W word, which turned out to be a term of endearment in the end. You might recognise this location right here. I am in Richmond itself, and it's very strange to actually be standing where the character Ted Lasso, played by Jason Sudeikis, of course, comes out of his flat, and he's usually having some sort of emotional experience or whatever, whether it's a breakdown with his wife or chatting to various female characters in the show. Always seems to be here. Look, if you take a little look around, you probably will recognise some of these locations. But what a great show it is. I don't know if many of you have been watching it, but I really got into it, so I thought I'd do a little update from the Ted Lasso location. What better? And what a beautiful day it is in London, in Richmond. Look at this. Fantastic English spring day. There we go. Nothing like England in this. So nothing like England in the summertime, but when there's a spring day like this, nothing like England in the spring either. Right, okay, latest news then is that this is really good news for England. Wembley is going to be hosting the last 16 game, which would be England if they win the group, after Dublin was stripped of their host city status in the Euros. Various reasons. They're not COVID ready. I don't think the Irish themselves thought they were ready for it. And the talk is that because the FA took such a strong stance against this just deplorable idea for the European Super League, and sort of led the way amongst the European football associations to pull this thing down, that UEFA rewarded England, the English FA, with that. So England, therefore, if we were to get all the way to the final, would play only one match away from Wembley, the quarter-final, which would be in Rome, as long as they win the group. That's a huge prospect. That is the closest thing to a home tournament since 1996. And can England go one better than Euro 96 and finally bring football home at home, which would be amazing. So that's a huge piece of news and a huge boost for England, and what an incentive really to go on and do this, win a tournament for the first time. Well, we don't even need to talk about since when, do we? Maybe an odd-numbered year would make things easier for England. So that's the big news. I do have to talk a little bit about this just absurd idea of the European Super League, because it's been so much in the news while building to the Euros, of course. But this is, just crazy week it's been. It was always going to be torn down. They were never ever going to go through with it. I mean, that should have been evident. But of course they tried, and they're paying the price for it now with protests, thinking that because now they've abandoned the idea that fans will just suddenly, forget about it and say everything's back to normal is fanciful. These fans will not forget what their owners tried to do, and neither should they. And to astonishing, just tone deaf behaviour of Florentino Perez at Real Madrid, who is still insisting that this should have gone ahead and this could go ahead. I mean, Real Madrid fans, what are you doing, putting up, tolerating this heathen football who has just been... I mean, you call him outspoken over the years, but this is just one bridge too far. Get him out of your club. He is a cancer on football if he is still going to try and defend this and still, going to try and push it forward, which he won't be able to do. As of today, as of the time, as far as I know, Real Madrid and Barcelona have still signed up, were still signed up to it. They did not ever, what's the word? They did not ever recede from this position. They still maintained they would have gone forward with it had they been able to. It was an appalling idea, but what, it's gone now in terms of the actual practicalities of it. But there are a lot of lessons to be learned here, and a lot of questions to be asked about what is happening to this game. The argument was that they were losing revenues and the TV money was drying up because of COVID. But in the grand scheme of things, that's just ridiculous. The game is probably, COVID aside, in the most financial health it's ever been in. It's not going to, the idea that these clubs are going to go bankrupt is just ridiculous. There's always something that comes around and saves them. This is the world's game. It's not going to just disappear in neither of these clubs. This was about pure greed. How about paying themselves less? How about sticking more of their own limitless money into the clubs? The TV revenues in comparison to the money these greedy, plenty of words for it. So greedy yacht owners have is just it's ridiculous in comparison. I'll put on the website that you should go protest outside their mall on driveways, their private jet hangars and yacht clubs. So feel free to do that still. Just because they've not gone ahead with this doesn't mean they still don't deserve that kind of thing. But it's just an outrageous idea, an outrageous expectation that the fans would somehow go along with this. It's almost laughable that they could just slip this under and think, fans will love this. A league where there's no jeopardy whatsoever, no promotion, no relegation, just because we're going to see Liverpool versus Real Madrid loads of times. Well, they have these games. They're called the off-season games that they have in the United States, where you see Manchester United playing Barcelona at the LA Coliseum. Do you remember what happened the last time one of those was played? No, but they do. Every year in August, they have the build-up games for the leagues, and these teams play each other. So that was what this was going to be, some sort of glorified version of that. Would it even be a glorified version of it? Probably a lesser version of that. But, for once, the UEFA and FIFA, they got it right. Obviously, they had their own interests in mind. They don't want breakaway leagues, football that is not under their umbrella. They obviously want to run the game still. But still, they played their part, and they did speak very, very strongly, and they spoke very, very well against this idea. But, longer term, do not forget what your club did. Do not forget what your chairman and owners did, what they tried to do. An attempt at a crime is still a crime, and it should be looked at in that way. This was a footballing crime that was attempted to be perpetuated on the footballing public, and it was a disgrace. And, that doesn't even touch upon what it would have done to international football, the damage it could have done to England, to the World Cup, even to the Euros, if it had gone ahead, taking time away again, taking resources away. It would have just been catastrophic in all areas. So, it was never going to go anywhere. The day that the reaction started from that, it was dead. But that's not the point. The point, as I say, is to remember what they tried to do. Remember what kind of people these are. Remember that while your club is successful and you love all that success, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, whoever you are, remember who these people are. They are really just people who want to make money. They, no matter how much they say they want to do this for the fans, do this for the club, at the end of the day, they are businessmen. Their soul isn't in it. I don't care what anybody says. The Sheikh's soul is not in Manchester City. John Henry's soul is not in Liverpool. Stan Kroenke's soul is certainly not in Arsenal. And the Glazers' soul is certainly not in Manchester United. So you settled for this when these people came in. You wanted this success. So you're going to have to roll with these things, unfortunately. And yes, while your shock and outrage is understood and while your shock and outrage is justified, I'm not sure if you should be that surprised. You have let this happen to football. You have let this happen to your clubs. This is the deal you sign with the devil. Devil's going to come back at some point to claim your soul. So think about that. It's a lot to think about. I realise this is a massive, massive question. It digs into the morality of football. It digs into the roots of football. It digs into the relationship between money and what happens on the pitch. These are huge, huge questions. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Football is going to be the multi-billion-dollar game it is for now. But there are also changes happening in the way football is watched. You don't really have to go pay hundreds of pounds or dollars a year to watch football on BT or Sky now, because there are so many services, and I'm not endorsing or advertising in any way. There are so many services now where you can get all these channels. You can call them pirate, USB stick services, whatever you want to call them, but they exist. More and more people know about them. They are, maybe you want to call them Napster, whatever, but there's no way to police them at the moment. So the better thing for football to do would be to reduce your prices, get more people paying subscriptions. That's the way to do it. But the more and more you try to extort money from the fans, Murdoch, the other organisations, Berlusconi, if he ever got anywhere near the game, again, can you imagine what he would do? The more you try to extort from fans, the more they will find alternative ways to watch football and watch their teams. So that is the warning for you. Perez, I don't think you care about anything except your own well-being, but there are other ways now to find these games, and in a time when people have no money in their pockets, they're going to damn well do so. They're not going to stop watching their team, that's for sure, but they're not going to give that money to you if they can find another way. I already know hundreds of people are doing it, and I've got no problem with that at all, legal or no legal. I hold my hands up saying that, call it civil unrest way of a civil protest way of watching football, and that's the way they're going to have to get used to it, and they're going to have to adapt. The game isn't going to die, their clubs aren't going to die, they have to adapt. Alright, well, we are just a few weeks away now from the Euros. We've been talking about what squad Southgate will be looking at. We can eliminate, it seems, some players that were kind of very, very prominent at the World Cup for England, who just will not feature. That's probably what I'm going to talk about today a little bit. And the first one is Dele Alli. He is just completely gone off. He's had some injury problems, obviously. He's just not been the player that he was. It's worrying and it's depressing. Another England player who has so much talent, but has just not quite realised it. And perhaps that was it. Perhaps the World Cup was the peak. Maybe not. But, in his place, somebody comes forward. But isn't it great to see Jesse Lingard back in the frame, and surely has earned a place in that squad. Comebacks are great, and his move to West Ham was obviously brilliant, inspired. Maybe he didn't know at the time, but I think he's earned his place back in there, and it's great to see, barring injury before the end of the season, Luke Shaw back for England as well, and I think he may well start against Croatia if he's fit. What a story that is. Certainly, I've already said it for many years, the best left back in my view since Ashley Cole. So, what are we looking at a squad right now? I think, and I'm going to end on this, and you can think about it and go and discuss it, but I think right now we're probably looking at something like Pickford, Pope, Henderson. Then we're looking at defenders, Stones and Maguire, of course, Trippier, I always get this pronunciation wrong, and Walker, Alexander-Arnold, probably, but you just don't know at this point. You're looking then at Chilwell, and who is going to be. Trippier also can be a versatile player and go on the left hand side. So I believe has Walker, and then of course Luke Shaw. I think is odds on to start against Croatia. And then we have obviously Henderson and Rice, who probably will start. And then across that middle, Mount and Foden seem to be nailed on and probably will start. And then you have the likes of Grealish and Maddison. Who else do we have there? Calvin Phillips, I think, will go, whether he'll start or not. And then he probably has maybe the luxury of another one there, but depends whether he decides to maybe takes an extra defender or goes for somebody in midfield. Who do you think that might be? There's quite a few names. Does Ward-Prowse come to mind? Possibly a few names there. I might have missed somebody out actually, but Bellingham, could he get in there? Is that a position he could play in? And then of course up front, the odds-on contenders are obviously straight off the team sheet will be Sterling, Kane, Rashford, and then it will be one probably from, will it be Sancho? Will it be Calvert-Lewin? Looks like Vardy, he's not going to be talked out of retirement, whether he will even try at this point. But that's kind of where we are with the England squad situation. So discuss and disagree and argue, whatever. But I'm going to leave you with that now. That's where we are. Call this the Super League rant. Call this an excuse to show Ted Lasso locations, being that I'm a movie maker too. And wherever you're in the world, enjoy. I hope you're out of lockdown. England is absolutely revelling in being out of lockdown, or semi out of lockdown. And we'll come back to you soon. There'll be plenty of us building up to the Euros, whether you like it or not. And we'll see you throughout. All right. Enjoy wherever you are. The end of lockdown or the suspension of lockdown.